Okay, so I have made my iPhone phone settings and camera settings video. It's not perfect. It wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be horrible. It wasn't too bad. I stumble, maybe mispronounce things, say a lot, and sneeze and cough stuff, and probably even left some stuff out. But it's kind of representative of maybe where a lot of you are at and where I'm at on my journey. And as I learn and explore different things about uh, cameras and video and photos and audio, that you can follow along and learn with me. See it from my perspective. So sometimes people, when they try to make tutorials, they skip over things because they don't remember what it's like to be a beginner. Um, and so I'm trying to give you that perspective, with the lighting and the sun being kind of overtaking the image and composition. Um, and just the overall process. So we're going to dive into as much as we possibly can so that you can follow along and see where it all fits in the things that you want to do, whether it's just taking better pictures, better video, making compositions better. Um, yeah, we'll go into as much as we can. So follow along and enjoy. Okay, so we are going to go through and try and help you get better camera settings with taking mobile photos. So this is hopefully going to be a very raw, unedited video as much as possible to just kind of mimic what the starting process is. So starting from complete scratch with just your phone and the video process. So as I go, my videos will get more refined and you'll kind of follow along with my journey. So let's start by going into your phone settings. I have a iPhone Pro or iPhone 15 Pro Max with this one. So my settings may differ slightly from what you're doing. So we just clicked on the settings and we're going to go into camera. Okay, so for video, we're going to start, and there's different formats. So you got 720, which is not that great. I mean, it's acceptable, depending on how you compose a shot and everything. Then there's 1080. 1080 is pretty standard now, where you can find that on most TV channels and stuff at 30 frames per second. If you bump it up to 60 frames per second, that gives you more smooth action shots and things. So I have my phone set at 4K at 24 frames per second. That is generally like a cinema look of what the frames look like. So then there's also 4K at 30 and 4K at 60 frames. Like I said, that kind of you'll notice a difference when you start changing between the frame rates, and I'll kind of show you that later. Okay, and then show PAL formats. PAL is for Europe, Africa, Asia, and South America. The resolution's actually a little bit higher. The color format's supposed to be better. The only thing is the frame rate's a little bit less. So you can kind of experiment. I was reading about that. I might actually try that sometime. And then enhanced stabilization. So video and cinematic mode will stabilize videos by zooming in a little bit more. Action mode and lower light. Action mode will decrease the stabilization to optimize for less bright screens. So your camera basically operates on light. That's what it's able to do. It's reflecting light off different things in the room to the camera, and that's what it's picking up. So light is very important to cameras, and trying to get it to work better in lower light is helpful. You can experiment also. HDR video, that's going to be a different color gamut. So in here we got video in 10-bit high dynamic range, including Dolby Vision. So that's going to make sure your colors pop a little bit more. You can kind of tell a difference. Like I said, when I get to the actual camera, we'll start to see a difference on that. And then audio frames per second, automatically reduce the frame rate to improve low light video and to optimize file size. So at 60 frames per second, you're probably gonna have a little bit bigger file size. So it's either you can do off to where it'll just stay static to whatever frame rate you select, or you can choose between the auto. Okay, and then lock camera. It says do not automatically switch between cameras while recording video. So my phone has 3 different cameras on it, 3 different lenses, and you can select between those to see what like different focal lengths. So I think it'll say what it is on the other thing. So it's just it'll stay static on one camera, and then lock white balance while recording. So that means it won't shift depending on whether you go into different light or not. Kind of what I heard is recommended if you want a good white balance. As soon as you start recording, the first thing your camera sees is something that's like white, like bright white, like a piece of paper or something. So if you hold a piece of paper up, or something opaque, more, because like I was trying that earlier with just a piece of paper in the sun, and you can see through it. So it's just be like if you have one of those white cards or gray cards or something to lock that white balance when it records, then your videos, you won't have much like color balancing and things to do on the back end in post-production or anything. All right, and record slow-mo. So the higher frames per second you can get, the better your slow motion is going to be. You can experiment for whichever kind of thing you're doing. If there are things that are moving faster, generally you want the higher speed, so at 240 frames per second. So then when it's slowed down, it'll look pretty cool, and it won't be all jittery and things. And then we got record cinematic. So you can do 1080p at 30 frames per second, 4K at 24 frames per second, 4K at 30 frames per second. And a lot of times, well, for cinematic, I'm going to stick with the 24 frames per second. I know like most cinema cameras, I can't remember what it is. It's 23.396 or 936, something like that, to where it's just under 24 frames per second, and they just kind of round up for most things. Record sound, you can choose whichever way you want to record it. And then, let's see, it says audio playback will not pause automatically when recording video. When playing audio, using the iPhone speaker, audio will be recorded in mono. So I think that's like playing as you're recording. So hearing the sound back through the phone speaker, which kind of doesn't make sense, but I just left it on. Let's see, and then formats. Formats gets kind of tricky. So we got high efficiency. That's what I have mine set on right now. There's most compatible, which gives you, different formats. And then photo mode, you can select of which pictures you want for like default. I have mine set on 24 just so I can get the most out of my camera. ProRAW and resolution control. So this allows ProRAW formats for photos and video. It takes up a lot of memory. So this is this photos or camera? It doesn't say. I think that's for photos. So it's 75 megabytes for ProRAW photo at 48 megapixels. So that's going to give you a pretty good image. You can go down to 12 megapixels. ProRAW is kind of like, I think it's mostly Apple's. No, Apple's is ProRes. There it is. ProRAW is just a higher definition. See, it gives you like 10-bit color. And it's, you can experiment too with what works better for your situation and how much storage you have on your phone. I have an external hard drive for my phone that works off of it, so I don't really have any issues as far as memory. Okay, so then Apple ProRes, I have that on, and what I have is log. So that's going to, when you're looking at it, it's actually going to look kind of grayed out. HDR is going to kind of pop. That's probably good for most people. SDR is just like standard definition with as far as like the color gamut. And then log is for when I plan on doing something with it afterwards. So like taking it, say like DaVinci Resolve, and running it through and balancing the colors and light and everything. And then applying an algorithm that I select in DaVinci Resolve that says, hey, this is coming from my iPhone on this particular format, so let's color it accordingly. And it'll just like switch on, and then it will look pretty good. Preserve settings. So the last setting that you had, that you used it on, it'll retain if you close the camera app. You can go into that for camera mode, controls. We'll get into those also. Creative controls, depth control, macro, exposure, night mode, portrait, zoom, action mode, resolution control, Apple ProRes, and live photo. I actually like the live photos. It's not very good for when you're trying to take it for different things, but it's kind of fun, because it's like that Harry Potter thing where you get to see a little bit before and a little bit after. Yeah. And then your volume button. So the volume up can be used for burst. I just have that set off for my stuff. And then scan QR codes. I use it occasionally. That's if you want to use your phone to look up things that from QR codes. Show detected text. I haven't noticed much on that one. Composition grid. Grid's pretty helpful. It'll tell you where you're at in the shot. And we'll get into that also a little bit later. Level is helpful also. The iPad that I'm recording this on doesn't actually have that I didn't see on the camera app. I think I'm using the Blackmagic camera app on the iPad right now. And mirror front camera, I don't know. I don't really see a use for that for me at the moment right now. View outside the frame. Excuse me. I just have that off for now. I just want to see what I'm actually recording. And then photographic styles. I don't use this because I use color grading. So there's different options. Let's see if I can select them here with the mouse. No, there's different. I don't know why I can't get it to go. Different. It's kind of like filters, vivid, black and white, noir, cold, warm, those different things. So if there's one you particular like that you would like to use all the time, then by all means, select that. Main cameras. So there's the additional lenses I have. So it's 28 and 35 millimeters. Default, I just want it on the standard zoom until I decide different. So I just always have it on the just 24 millimeter. And then portraits and photo mode. So that's getting like depth information. So that's kind of what puts the blur in the background a little bit when you do a portrait. Prioritize faster shooting. Yeah, so intelligently adapt image quality when rapidly pressing the shutter. Okay, so that's like if you're trying to take a lot of photos at once. And then lens correction, I don't have I don't use lenses a lot on my phone. I do have some. And they're all right. I just haven't shot enough like pictures and things to really do that, and sometimes they get in the way. Macro control, show camera control for automatically switching to the ultra wide camera to capture macro photos and videos. I just had that selected. I don't know if I've used it or not. And then that is all of the phone settings for your camera to just go through. I always like to go through the settings and like play with everything, see what changes, see what doesn't. Like I said, I may go back and mess with that PAL format, but we're going to go outside and see what the actual footage looks on the camera. All right, so now we are here in the camera, just the default iPhone app. And then so really the only thing you can change in the slow-mo one is the time-lapse, excuse me. So time-lapse takes a photo at increments, and then you can see like how things progress, like plants growing or wilting or the sun moving across the sky kind of thing. The only thing you really change is exposure. Generally you want to make it a little darker, because if you like lose the details, there's no way you can get that back. It's just, that's what it's gonna look like. And the only thing you can do in like post to fix it is just make it darker for the most part. And it doesn't really, they don't really come back. So then if I go out and go from time lapse to slow-mo, so this is the one you can already tell that something's different, how it's picking up the things, and then you can change it from
240 frames per second to 120. And I don't know, I don't really notice that much of a difference. Maybe a little bit. And then you can basically change the zoom levels, and then you can turn your light on, or like your flash on where it's constant to film to see whatever you want to film. And then for cinematic, we got the f-stop. You can change, this is your aperture. I can't remember much on this one, so we'll get into it more when we start actually filming stuff. And then, so for other things, you got your flash or light, and then exposure also. Like I said, I like to have mine down just a little bit. Normally I'll use filters, like an ND filter or something, and then you can change the resolution. So here we got just HD at 30 frames per second, and 4K at 30 frames per second, and then 4K at 24 frames per second. All right, and for video, this one kind of changes a bit. So right now I have it on log. So there's different formats. So if I turn it off, my frame rate's gonna change too, or it's limited. So this is log, where it kind of looks a little, pale, but it actually retains more information despite how it looks. And then so if we just have it here, so action mode is more for stabilization. And then your resolution changes where it's limited. So it's only limited on this one to 2.8. And I can do ProRes log, huh? All right, so if we turn that off and then go to 4K, so HD, and then at 60 frames per second, you kind of tell the difference on that. And then 4K at 30. So for right now, I don't have my external hard drive connected, and so I can't do that at 60 for ProRes. And then we have the different things where, like I said, ProRes for log, action, and then your exposure. And it's helpful to get things to help you with exposure, like a light meter or something. All right, so moving on, and then we got just your photos. So right now I have mine on RAW Max, which will take the highest resolution photo that it can. And if I turn live on, that'll get a little snippet before the picture's taken and after, but it turns off RAW Max. So then live off and back to RAW Max. So you got some different things you can do here. There's your flash, the live photo, whether you want it to be square or widescreen. I don't know why that's not default to widescreen. But like I said, then your exposure, you notice it more when you go to the light side that it's too bright. So then just click it again. Maybe. There we go. And then this is your timer. So then whether you set a timer for it. And this one is your filters, kind of like what was in the options that we didn't look at. The different tones you can get to your pictures. I just leave mine original because I mess with it. And I don't know why it's not responding. There we go. Probably because my thumb's touching the screen. All right. So and then portrait mode. That does kind of spatial thing. See how it's kind of trying to blur things? Because it wants to put something in the foreground. And then you can select the different lighting. And then really, let's see, you got the same options as before. And then spatial, I have not really messed with this one. So we change that. So I'm assuming this is for like the Apple Vision Pro, and you can switch between video and pictures. So then we'll go to panoramic. So this is the one that you start somewhere. So when you press the button, you like have it on a tripod or gently pan it, and the arrow will help you keep it aligned on the line as you're going across. Just holding your phone, it's kind of difficult to get that. But so in like the other options, like I said, with the grid, you can kind of see that. And if you just, tap on your screen, it'll focus to different places. Oh, you can go both ways. I did not know that. Learning something all the time. All right, so that is the general settings for your phone and camera, just to start getting some better photos and how you can kind of change the settings a little bit. Like I said, the exposure and aperture, just understanding those better will help you a lot more in getting better photos, and just understanding the way the light is too much and then not enough. But generally, like I said, if your exposure is too far down low, it's easier to manipulate later. And then like after you take a photo, you can tweak it. Even in the iPhone, it just says that auto adjust, and it gives you a bunch of options. We may go into that in a later video, but I generally prefer to do everything on the computer. So that's all for now. Just be creative and make something.